Okay, welcome everyone. We're just going to really quickly go through the course supports that we have created for you for the 6th through 8th grade unit, Restarting a Writing Life. I think this will be a very fun unit to maybe come back to after break. Since it's less demanding, there's not as much to turn in, and it's really more of a creative and just inspiring writing unit. So we'll just kind of go through everything that we've digitized for you. And again, this is coming from a new unit, a virtual unit. It's this guy right here, Restarting Your Writing Life. It is the exact same information and content for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So this will fit a wide audience for you. As you open this up, I just wanted to point out that this viewer's guide and the curricular calendar are two of the main pieces that I used quite extensively to build all of the supports. So they're really, really helpful. So if at any point you're questioning some of the moves that I'm making, go to these two pieces and they will help you. So to start off with, you have, just like a lot of the other units I've created for you, this unit planner, which everything is pretty circular. If you open up one of these items, you should be able to find your way back to any of the others. So everything is kind of linked here is what I'm meaning. I have created this unit planner that basically has everything linked to it, including your support slides that you can use live while you're using Zoom with the students, the digital journal, that interactive journal that's created for the students themselves, any places for you to respond with links or things that aren't working, or suggestions and ideas that you might use for other people. There's not as much anchor charts in this unit as there are just like post-it note style activities, which I've included for the students and for you in the CDL support slides. They do reference genre, the checklists, and so I gave you access to each genre in each grade level. So depending on where your students are at, you might want to go through and thin that out. I've given you access to mentor text ideas, as well as a crosswalk between Jennifer Saravallo strategies, which in fact are most of the time what I used for the conferring strategies within the unit themselves. So again, more space for you to provide support for each other and ideas. And in each bend, I've given you kind of a brief update. This particular page is, you'll see this 15 times over. I basically take their content and synthesize it down into a one-pager so that it's super quick and easy for you to access and take a look at. And this is where I said for the conferring strategies, I basically took information from the Jennifer Saravallo book. Now, for each session, you have a corresponding, that's the digital journal for the kids, but you have a version for your use while you're in Zoom. And this particular one does give you access to their TC Supports virtual unit videos. There's no other way for me to provide this for students or for you to use. If you feel like you want to put this into the Canvas module, feel free to do that. You just need to change out the use of codes and passwords here, because I think there's like 150 view limit, and in that case that wouldn't work since there's thousands of students that potentially could be watching this, so you'll just have to change those out for each unit. But they are linked when you get into the actual sessions, and you'll see that each session provides a little bit of information. What are we supposed to be learning? This is your teaching point, and then any of your actual post-it notes that might be used. The reason I think that this is going to be a really fun unit is because I am really calling out to students to go to YouTube, TikTok, whatever, to find supports and inspiration and even some mentor text ideas, just to get them started with some of the journal writing. Now, it is your choice, and maybe even the student's choice if they want to go digital or analog. I kind of think analog might be fun for this unit, but if students decide to go digital, I do have a version for them. They would just have to go and make a copy because they'll be in view only to start with. Each session has access to the post-it notes, the videos, the tasks for the day. Some even have timers built in for them to, time themselves while they're writing and thinking about things. Now, each of these obviously corresponds with information that's built out in Canvas as well. So if a student decides to go paper, pencil, or analog, all of these pieces are also built out in Canvas. So again, it's hard to make something that fits the needs of everyone. It just depends on what you guys are comfortable with. So I did split it up into Bend 1, Bend 2, and Bend 3. Bend 1 just gets students started. Bend 2 has them really working on developing an independent project. And Bend 3 is only 3 sessions and might be something that it could be considered kind of a throwaway. You have to make that decision because it's really getting them to think about what they might do next or how they can keep going with the journal. So I don't know. The bulk of the lessons are really in Bend 1 and Bend 2, to be perfectly honest. So I'm going to just go into the modules themselves. I did not provide or do a pre or post assessment for this. It wasn't included in the original plan from Teachers College, so I didn't put one in. You do have an unpublished page. Oh, I need to unpublish it. I just want that to be for you guys. The kids don't need to see that. But basically, it's just considerations for you. What is this unit about? What are some things that you need to consider or think about? Links to all of the supports. And then more specific, you can find, for instance, I created a slide deck with some of the banners and images that I use so that you can customize things if you feel like you need to. So I've just given you access to that here. And then also reminding you, Bend 3 is short. Some of the unit overview pages are linked in here that you might, if you decide, once you import from the Commons, you might have to update a few links. Session 11 also launches what they called publishing houses or genre groupings. In session 3, I think I put in, and let's go ahead and go in there, modules. In session 3, I think, as you'll kind of see here, most of the content is built out in pages because it just quite frankly isn't a unit that has a lot of turn-in potential. You just really want the kids diving into their journals and writing. But in session 3, we asked students to start thinking, what might they want to develop out into a larger independent project or piece. And that will be very telling for you to find out what genres kids in your class are focusing on, because later for the publishing houses, the genres come into play where you can kind of group them and build some community. For any of the discussion threads, I have included a discussion rubric, and you'll notice that we're following a concept of doing an initial post where they answer the prompt. We're asking them to come back and comment on their peers, and then at the end to come back and reflect after reading their original post, the comments from their peers, and what they've learned. There is in fact a rubric posted down below for students. It's actually a graded discussion, but it's showing up as incomplete / complete, so they're not going to see your actual points unless you want to change that for them. But if I go up here and go to show rubric, you can see that there is in fact a rubric attached, so that's a good thing for you to play around with if you haven't played with rubrics in Canvas at all. It does help for a lot of feedback and easy grading for you. So any of the discussion threads, I've added those pieces in so that you can kind of build up that proper discussion technique, I guess I would say. So they should tell you here what genre. Now, that being said, if I go back into session 11, let's go to modules. So in Bend 2, you'll notice that session 11 breaks out into those discussion groups. And at this point, I just made up some general ideas. Depending on how your students answer in Bend 3, you have more than enough time to come back and change out these buttons and rename those discussion threads and relink them. I just was kind of like, what could the kids possibly be working on? And these are some of the things that they mentioned throughout the unit, but you can definitely go in and change those. But each of these would then link to a discussion thread that's meant for that publishing house to use to talk back and forth and to help each other out. And otherwise, there is a digital gallery walk that the kids will then submit for session 12. Let me go back to that. So session 12 is their official submission, so that everybody in the class can go and see their independent projects. I've again listed this as a discussion, so students can feel free to provide video, images, just again depends on what their independent project ended up being, which again I think is what makes this unit so fun, because you could have one student working on a poetry anthology and one student working on a food blog potentially. So lots of options for student engagement. Again, thinking about module 3. Oh, the other thing, again, not as many anchor charts for this unit, but I did give you a writing checklist option. So 6th, 7th, and 8th grade are all covered with all different narrative, argument, and informational. And this is linked in both Bend 2 and Bend 3. And once you click on one, you'll see that it opens up with a PDF view that students can also click and pop out so they can zoom in. In the digital notebook for the students, where do I have that? Here we go. In the digital notebook, I gave them access as well. Because it's a digital notebook, they can actually like move these little check marks and check off portions of the checklist themselves. So that's kind of a cool part of using the digital notebook if they are using it. And I think that that's about it. It's a fun little unit, kind of a no stress a unit for both teachers and students, and I hope you use it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, and thanks guys.